TV. Black power, peace, and love, family.
I want to say peace to the Queen. It's a blessing to have a sister right here at the Sarnetta TV, House of Consciousness. Peace, Queen. How you doing?
I'm just fine, and I'm honored and much appreciate being here.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, you know I always tell you how beautiful you look. You know, you are a beautiful sister.
Thank you.
All right. First question I have for you, my sister, is that what are some of the misunderstandings of the Moorish history that our people really need to understand?
Wow, that's vast.
Just go in on something.
It's just so vast.
Right.
Because, you know, like, wow. Well, the main thing is people don't know anything about their nationality or birthrights, or that they are a Moor. Or, well, let's start with what is a Moor. You know, that would be the first thing. Is like, what is a Moor? And what is, you know, like they'll say all this stuff about a Moor. I mean, it is the manifestation of the being into the flesh, the being who travels upon the waters of the earth, but first beginning in the waters and also the land of the earth, but beginning in the waters of their mother's womb. See, when you look up the word Moor, it just doesn't mean a noun. It's actually an action. So it means that since man is mind and we're all spirit, and then we come into the flesh, so we travel upon the 7 stages of development in the waters of the mother's womb. That's mooring. Right, and then when we're done, we get cut from the navel, which is navigating L. And then we become navigating L's upon the earth plane. So you start there. So if that was understood and accepted, there would really be no problem, because people say, well, I don't have to be anything to be whatever. Well, I just explained to you what that is. It means that if you came to the womb, then you were mooring, and you were mooring through the 7 stages of the waters and the 7 stages of development in your mother's womb. And then you didn't have to be called anything, because that's just what it is. So those who actually call themselves Moors are actually saying, I'm not anything except that I am, that I am.
I am that I am.
That's really what's being said. So that's the first misunderstanding.
Right.
What about the misunderstanding of Moors being a group?
No.
Or organization, or
No.
a movement, or crew? Because many people say, I'm not down with the Moors, or I'm not a Moor. They attribute it to a card-carrying group.
Right. Well, first of all, you know, in all of this, we got to at some point get into what Prophet knew what you all leave, because that's something to really clear up. But first of all, when people say, I'm not down with the Moors, what are the Moors doing? Well, they need to look at themselves and say, what are you doing? Because you're a Moor, whether you recognize it or not. Again, just giving the explanation of what that is.
From the militant aspect of it, like the militant, the quote unquote, the so-called militant group that's out there, a lot of them seem to can't get with the Moors because they say they are integrationalists. How much
who?
Integrationalists, meaning that y'all don't mind white people being Moors, or white people can come amongst you.
Okay.
Let's talk more about that as well.
Well, the first thing,
because our people still dealing with the black and white issue.
You just answered it. But be honest with you just answered it. They're dealing with the black and white issue, which is absolutely a farce and has nothing to do with these issues. That's the problem. This black and white issue is what was set before them to deal with, to be a diversion. All right. Now I'm gonna tell you what I think about the what you call militant, but they're really the warriors with, I would say, without a cause, because this is the cause. The cause is to protect family. And that starts with mother and the children. But now, as far as this black and white, go back to that because it's important, is that was what was placed in the front. And what we need to recognize is that so-called white people, because we gotta stop. You know what? We're saying that we gotta stop calling ourselves black. But equally, once you understand that, you gotta stop calling these people white. Not just because white is a political status, or white means purity, and purity means God, and God is the ruler of the earth. It's because they're not white people. Period. If it goes for us, it goes for them. Now, their nationality, they gave it up when they came over here to try to take your stuff, your land, your estate. They had to give up their nationality to become a United States of America citizen, which is a corporation. Now, let's get straight with why that's important. If it's a corporation and you are a citizen / member of a corporation, there's nothing for you to be but a employee / servant of a corporation. There's no other nothing there to be. It's no such thing as that. Because the whole deal was to birthright theft. The whole deal was, where's my land that for them? The whole deal was like, this is really the quote unquote promised land. This is really the quote unquote heart of civilization. This is really what you might call Northwest Africa. And I say that to people so they can stop saying I'm going back to Africa and understand that they in it.
This is the Garden of Eden.
It's the Garden of Eden.
That's what they had in Columbus's journal, that they arrived
Absolutely.
at the Garden of Eden.
So what has happened is absolute lies.
Milk and honey.
That's right. And the land of milk and honey is another terminology. So these things are important because as you're doing studies and you read books, well, however old they may be or whatever like that, and if it says the land of milk and honey, you need to know they're talking about the North American continent. If you don't know that, then you miss it. And that's part of our problem. That part of our problem is the miseducation. We have been lied to.
I want to go back to what you were saying earlier about the nationality concept. There are brothers and sisters that are claiming that they're sovereign, but they have, driver's license and they still have slave names. So can you please explain or clarify for those brothers and sisters out there that, they are following the concepts of sovereignty, but if you are a national, if you're a U.S. citizen, it can only be property or 14th Amendment citizen. How does that contradict with your claim for sovereignty?
Well, first of all, and this is absolutely, unequivocally, most important, you do not have sovereignty if you don't have a nationality.
None.
No.
It comes first.
It comes with it.
Exactly.
In other words, sovereignty doesn't stand on its own.
Can.
It comes with nationality.
Yes.
So the unity for everybody is nationality. Everybody got one. What's yours?
So what if there's an organization that say that they have a nation?
Okay, an organization that says they have a nation. First of all, nations start with women.
Yeah.
That's number one, coming from her womb. She is the one who creates nations. So there's a bunch of some brothers, sons somewhere talking about they started a nation. That's corporate. That's fictitious. In fact, this whole thing about nationality wouldn't even be a thing if it wasn't for the fact that people respected and honored their mothers and fathers from the first place. Because one mother's breast had given us all suck. One mother's breast have given us all suck. One.
I want you to go into this whole thing of dealing with sovereignty.
Okay.
What is it to be a sovereign?
To answer this question, then people might wake up and realize that the police are not the authority. Because you can't say that you're born free. And that you can't say, see, in other words, if you knew that government starts with family, society starts with family. And so does, and my son always tell me this, and I got it, so does the authority of government with family. So who could be out across walking the earth plane, Terra? Who could be out walking here that has an authority over you if in fact you have a right from birth to do whatever you want to do, provided you do not infringe on someone else's right to the same. That's the order of society. That's what should be taught. That's what should come out of the household into family. When does a police, now you want to really talk about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You need to recognize that the police are policy enforcers, first of all. They are policies enforcers. So how did they get, who are they? Who hired them? They're corporate employees. And you look, there's a state law that says that police are there to protect the interests of the corporations. Hello? So whatever they're doing, it ain't meant for you. And all these warrior sons out there, if they could just get this, and I know they will, and I know the next generation coming, standing, still living right now, breathing right now, will have it because they have no right and authority over you as family. Our problem is lack of knowledge. and the intended deceit and trickery done, because even those who read the Biblios Heliotext that you call the Bible says he shall fool even the most elite. So even those who think they're highly educated and this and that, they've been fooled. That's it. It's not really complicated. Now, as far as that's really explains sovereignty. It begins with family. And the Constitution is written based on the spiritual. It's a spiritual document. It's the most spiritual document that exists, even though it wasn't written for Moors. Because the authority was from the people of the land that wrote it to keep other citizens and people in check from violating you. And at minimum, if we were to enforce that, we would be in much better shape. My goodness, much better shape. Now, Black Panthers, right? In case you would bring that up, I would bring that up because some people do that. Well, they had, they were in the courts with guns. Yep, but they had one problem.
What was that?
They called themselves Black. And it's just that simple. And even though that may not have been coming into play as heavy, they've all been set up to steal your birthright. That means your rights of birth. That means the right for you to just be here and breathe and do what you do and co-create with the universe. That's what's being stolen. And then when you take it to another level, to steal the land so that you can't feed yourself. To say that you got to buy that which is really your estate and inheritance. So when you look at it that way, they knew they would kick in the fact that, they got guns. Shit, they're allowed to have firearms. They kick in that you're 14th Amendment citizen. But they ain't going to tell you that. They're not going to sit there and tell you, we got jurisdiction over you because you just said that, your name was, you just said, I live at. They're not going to tell you that. They're going to roll over you like you weren't there, because that's the name of the game, because jurisdiction means the right to speak.
Mm-hmm. How do one determine their nationality?
From their mother.
But how do you know that you are
one mother's
Moor?
breath had
How
given...
do you know you are Moor and what tribe you come from without taking DNA tests or stuff like that?
I'm going to straighten that out for you. First of all, we're going to take the word tribe. Let's get it straight. Tribe is nothing but a family name. That's it. People keep wanting to take this word tribe and make it like I'm from this tribe and this nation and I'm from that tribe. Get it straight. Tribes are family names of the same people from the same nation. And Moors, if we could get back to the definition that I gave in the beginning, then we would get it. Then we would have it. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Okay, beautiful. Does race mean nationality or skin color?
Skin color doesn't mean anything, because there's no such thing as skin color other than the terminology. It's a matter of what degree of melanin you have, and that's one of the things that people have done is they have determined, they have divided up people like crayons with skin colors and tones. So race is this. There's only one race, and that is the human race. And within that human race are different nationalities. And the nationalities are determined from the mother. And now to get into that, because see, one mother's breasts have really given you suck. That's why, as you may have recently heard about, I think it was a so-called Chinese national that said that he did his DNA and he's going to prove that, he's a pure Chinese. And when they did the DNA, it came back to Africa. Because it's only one, the Moabite African woman is the mother of civilization in terms of this human family. Period. There's nothing else, and then everything else is in between that. And then when we did the experiments or whatever, which could be a different thing, now our sons started reading into those, and that became a different nationality. Now, the whole thing is about the matriarch. No, that's another thing. It's about it's really all about family. It really is.
If you had the power, and you do, to correct, quote, black history, unquote, where would you start?
I would start where they started. And I would say to people, if you believe that your history started on a slave boat, I can guarantee you that's where it ended too. That's what I would say. That's what I would say. Then after saying that, and so don't believe me, go back and do some studies past the 1700s, and I'll guarantee you, as sure as you're sitting there listening, or wherever you are, watching, listening, you will find nothing but the word more. And that's another thing. Because we weren't called black then. Description, maybe, black or more or whatever, but that's it. Know the difference between a description and an actual, person, place, or thing, noun. I mean, really, who were the British? They were the brutish Moors. And if there's anything that could be added to this day about this, is that we were fighting each other. The European never had nothing to offer, never had nothing to give. It was us fighting ourselves. And we've proven that the British were the brutish Moors, with the pictures that we show of King George. And then, I put it up on the site, and they wanted me to qualify it. I got somebody writing, I think they were Europeans too. Your site is great, except for when you put up pictures like this and you don't verify the source, then it diminishes it. So we scurry to make sure that I got the right source. And it's in a museum in London.
I heard a lot of scholars, I heard a lot of teachers teach that the word Moor really means black.
Well, the word Moor doesn't really mean black, but if you were to deal with things, anybody who was a Moor at a time, the description of them was black. That's just like saying black. Yeah, it really was copper-colored people. And when you're dealing with people who have no melanin, copper, the definition of American, which is a Moor, Al Morocco, America, this is it, right? It says copper-colored people. The various copper-colored people. That's the true definition of American. You can find it in Webster's 1935 dictionary. That's the true definition. So anything that's not quote-unquote pale skin, because see, remember now, the so-called Indians are supposed to be the real Native Americans. No, Moors are the Native Americans. Yes. Look at that. Look at that.
And if the rest of one mother giving us up, that's what determines right there.
Right.
I'm one of those various copper-colored people. I always was called, people say, "Are you Indian?" all my life. And but here's the thing. The Indian is supposed to be the Native American.
Right.
But this is not India. Moors are Native Americans. But some don't want to call themselves Native Americans because it's been given to the so-called Indian. Well, bring it back, because you have to bring it back. Because until you come right, it ain't going to get right.
Let's go back to slavery right quick.
Yes, I did want to say something.
Why do you think the Moors, the historical Moors, enslaved the European, the so-called white man, and do you think it is now just coming back to us? Why did they have to put them in slavery?
Because they wanted the European to remain the slaves. Because the Europeans were Slavics. They are the original slaves.
But why? They didn't see them as human?
They weren't. They were mixed with the DNA of animal. It was an
You gotta go
experiment.
into that. Like, what kind of animal?
The chimpanzee. The Negro, Negro, Negro Yavera chimpanzee. The true Negro is them.
Now, I'm going to tell you something.
Woo! And so many people have this argument. Well, wait a minute, if we're all Moors, no, they're not us. But here's the deal, now we got to go to CM Bay now. Because see, we've already done it. And the only way, the way they came is the way they're going to go. It's called the blending back. So when you see brothers and European daughters together or whatever like that, that's what's happening, it's the blending back. Now, the other thing that goes with that is that at one time, that's how this thing came, because women vibrate higher than men. So as we were doing this, the men were more sickly and like that. They died, the European sons. But the women were not, because women are always vibrating higher. They have 100% of the DNA, etc. And so they were having babies at like 14. So that wasn't a long time for a quote-unquote generation. And so the sons were the ones put in the cave. That's why they call them, the caveman, and they came out of there doing bestiality and all that, because they didn't have no women, because you had the women. Now, the sons treated the women, the European daughters, pretty good. They recall that, but they still wanted to revolt, and that is what the American Revolution was about. The daughters of the American Revolution. What did they have to revolt against? They had to revolt against being in the harems, or concubines in the harems of the Moorish sons. Now that's real.
And it was the children of
the children
of the European women that revolted and killed their fathers. They
exactly
against the Moorish fathers.
Right, because see, nationality and inheritance comes through the mother, not the father. Never. He's a steward, and when we get that straight, we'll be straight.
But don't the father determine the seed?
No,
you
the
are
father,
what your father
no,
is.
the
You
seed,
saying that you are what the mother is?
Yeah, you, Sanetta, are what your mama made you. You best believe. And anything short of that is dishonor to your mother.
But inside of the sperm, there's intelligence.
No.
There's
Hold
light.
on. No, I'm not
there's
disagreeing
energy.
with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. But let me put it to you.
Okay.
The seed is not your sperm. That's the first thing that has been told. That's a lie. The seed is the seed of thought. That's the seed. All right? So walking around thinking, well, the seed is what comes out of my penis, when we having sexual intercourse, is incorrect. Not only that whatever comes out of there was given to you by your mother, or not. And we can have another interview on
now,
that.
you know what? This is interesting because I was interviewing a few people on this same topic. They brought it up. And the brother said that the egg that's inside is just a dead egg until that life.
Okay,
because
all right.
we carry the life in it that strikes the
you
egg.
carry the spark of life.
Right,
I'm not going to disagree with that.
Okay.
So check it out. I'm glad you said it and you put it on the table. All that is needed, every daughter that is born with enough eggs in her womb to create a nation. All that those eggs need, and there's some that don't need it, is a spark of electricity. And your sperm offers a spark of electricity. But that's not the only way to get the spark. You better believe that. That's why they have intravenous where they put it in the centrifuge and it's gold line, because gold is a spark.
Please don't
Electro.
tell me. Please don't tell me you believe or you subscribe to the teachings that a woman could give birth without being touched by a man.
Yeah, well, she most certainly can. And if you would like to have an interview on that and give you all the science on it, you most certainly can, because that's what parthenogens were for.
Parthenogenesis.
Yes, that's what parthenogens, which is a building that the women went to, and they gave all the credit to Greeks. That's not Greek Parthogens.
Can you show
And
me
she
one
sat there.
woman on the planet that has brought forth a child without being touched?
Amazon women always did it. The amazing women, they always did it. You know that to be true. And that's South America. I ain't got to laugh now.
And in
Oh,
biology,
man.
something called autofecundity in biology.
Yeah, that's true. It's in biology.
Well, Natural Tahuti gonna love this right here.
And
boy.
also,
Believe that.
like you said, the sisters, the daughters now who don't have
That
mates,
ability.
they don't have men as mates, are being artificially
Inseminated, yes.
and having birth.
Yeah.
Without the usage, they're utilizing sperm, but without a man.
No, but that's different.
But the other reason why women but the other reason why women aren't doing that as often is because of we're not taking care of ourselves in terms of eating right and
diets
fiber.
and all
And
that.
yes,
Right.
sir. Yes, sir. I want. Okay. You got another question?
What is the woman's role? What is the science of woman in government?
Oh, she's the lawgiver. She lays down the law. Give you an example in a very intrinsic way. When you were born in your household, your mother laid down the law. Women run houses. If you ever, and the father enforces it. Thank you. If you ever find a house, that's
Glad
right.
you said that because I was about to say something else.
Yeah, but you only enforce that which was laid
I
down.
agree with what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, you only enforce. See, that's the whole thing. People think that when we give this information and we're trying to disrespect or throw out the son. No, everything has to be in order, because without that, then it becomes a real problem. But I've met women that say, "Yeah, the man runs the house," and I'm saying, "Well, that's a messed up house, because there's no man that runs the house." I mean, if he is running the house, ain't nothing happening. It ain't right. It's not right. Because she's the lawmaker, the lawgiver, and you're the law enforcer. So that's the way that go. Now, if she want to make you pretend that.
I think I got to hide that part from my wife.
I bet you do.
Because
You
I'm the
do.
lawmaker in the house.
Well, then we need to talk because
we need to talk.
Do you have children?
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, but the law that you're laying down, is it her law?
It's
Is it
both
the
of
law
us-
from
it's
your
both of
mother?
us. We both agree with it.
So you make laws. You can't
course.
make law. I'm gonna tell you why you can't make law.
Tell me why.
Let me tell you why you can't make law. Because the moment that you're born, anybody, that is all law manifested in the flesh. Your law when you get here. And she lays it down. And it's just that simple.
Length and width.
Yeah, length, angle, and width. Back to the slavery thing before we move on.
Okay, yes.
And I told you I would start at the slave boats. But if you were to have someone who was a scientific mind or a scientist who could break it down scientifically, then they would also approve without a shadow of a doubt that that was not possible to bring across slaves like that in that form with no water on the boat. You know, what they show you was the slave boat scientifically can be proven, didn't exist. They don't even find a piece of the slave boat because it didn't happen that way. We were coming over on ships long before that, and we came when we felt like it. And also, they would also give the scientific for what they say, where if you didn't have water, where would the water be in this boat that you say is the slave boat? The water would weigh more than the boat, and you can't travel that far without stopping. And then if you did stop at ports, whose ports were you stopping at? Because they weren't yours, European, if they were already existing. So I wanted to.
Why do you think they came out with that type of teaching? Was it to really enslave the minds of us or put fear into our hearts? When we look at these stories, was it really to put the fear into?
Oh, absolutely. That was part of it. And the other part, and the real reason behind it is to steal your birthrights.
The land.
Which
The land. They
your
have
birthrights
you-
come with the
yeah.
land.
Now you're
Inheritance.
not saying we wasn't mistreated. Like when you see them pictures with the slashes and all.
Oh, no,
them
no.
pictures.
Let's clear
Right, you're
that
just
up.
saying that it's slavery didn't go down.
Let's clear that up.
Yeah, there, do that.
Of course we were enslaved. The important thing is to know that we are not the slaves. Slavics were the slaves.
There you go.
Now, did these things happen where they castrated us and they enslaved us? Absolutely.
Right.
After
See,
certain
now you
fear,
make
and
the
then I'm gonna tell you, sisters, after the generations in the womb was fearful, and she began taking out the reverse, which was their plan, in terms of the sons and the daughters. Which is
And-
why it can only be fixed through her.
Can you explain that we were at war with the Europeans for generations, and as a result of the spoils of war was the enslavement of those that they didn't kill, you know, during the
Orphans.
war.
The orphans were really the spoils.
Yeah, the orphans and the women were the spoils of war, who were in turn captured, put on plantation, and enslaved. And these are the slaves that they, you know, these are your slaves that
Well,
they show
actually, to add to that and get it straight, we were at war with each other first.
you. Yes.
See, we can't war with Europeans.
Yeah.
And that's why all of this happened. No, we were at war with each
Empire in
other
Europe.
first. The British Empire is Moors, the brutish Moors. We're the Moroccan Empire. That's why they say the sun never sets on the Moorish Empire, because it's on both sides.
And that kills the argument of we was living in peace and harmony before the so-called white man got there.
No, but we were. We
Okay.
were, because this is the land of milk and honey. This is the Garden of Eden. This is the paradise. This is where we would come on ships to chill out. And we might be laying up with no
But
clothes on.
we were at war with each other.
No, that became so. We were first we were always at war with each other.
In
You're
Europe,
right.
Yeah, 'cause
You're right.
in Europe,
You're
we
right.
were at war
You're
with
right.
each other.
But it didn't
Different
cross over here.
dynasties, the different dynasties in Europe were at war with each other, and that's during the whole Reconquista, the reconquering of Europe. But the different dynasties had power struggles amongst themselves.
Yes.
The Almoravids,
Yes, the Almoravids
you
and
know,
the
all of the
Almohades.
the Almohades and whatnot.
All Moors.
were clashing with each other. The last conflict with Bobdil, Muhammad X, he went to war with his uncle, therefore crossed his uncle, and that's when King Ferdinand and Isabella were able to use him, because he was a vassal of their jurisdiction, to cross, you know what I mean, to give up the keys to Alhambra, and that's when they came and conquered us. So
when you study history, you will find that there has always been internal conflicts. The Europeans seizes that opportunity to come within.
They get the spoils of the war.
They get the spoils of the war. Now, this also happened in South America amongst when Pizarro came in Peru. There was a conflict going on in the Incan Empire that they were able to basically come in on and use the weakening of the end. So this is military tactics.
Yeah.
This is military tactics called divide and conquer. They utilize it to this day.
Yeah. Now, if someone believes they're black, they can believe they're black. If someone believes that black is a skin color, they can believe that it's a skin color. But belief is not knowing. And then the other is a nationality. No, if it's a nationality, nationality comes with the land. It comes with the Constitution. Constituencies. It comes with usually a flag, which is a flag of the people. It comes with a seal. You understand what I'm saying? It comes with 5 things. And then the people itself. So it's not a nationality. There's no Blackadonia, Negrodasia. Doesn't exist. It's not a part of the family of nations. It's not a part of the human family. Now I'm going to give you a little story about black. And you can try this out with your child. It happened to me before I even knew anything about being a Moor. And this was my child. And I put him on the spot. But truly, 5 years old. And I told him we were black. And my son looked at his sneaker. 5. He looked at his sneaker and he looked at me. And he said, Ma, I can't be black. If I was black, I'd look like my sneaker. He wasn't buying it. Just logical stuff that comes out of the mouths of babes, and he was absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. So, black is not a nationality. Black is not a skin tone. Now, I know some people, the skin tone is so heavily melanated they look real dark. Mm-hmm. But even so that would be the extent if you wanted to say that, but that would be it. But it ain't a nationality.
To add on, in context, when you break it down etymologically, it is actually a skin color, but it needs to be affirmed of who it applies to, because the word black means bleach. That's what it means.
True.
And bleach means pale. So the Europeans are actually the black man. And what they did was they switched our identity. They stole our identity, or actually stole our minds. So now they saying they proud to be Americans, when American applies to the copper color, copper complexion people, which is us, and we saying we black. So it's a verbal and mental agreement for a status change. But in reality, black is not an identity. It's a status. It's a legal status, but it is the lowest form of any type of legal status.
Now, see, that's very important when you say black is a legal status.
Yeah.
Because now when you say things like black is really the white man, that is confusing.
But I'm not saying.
Hell.
But I'm not saying
and
that.
our
black.
people is going to try to get at you for that.
That's fine.
So you got to really clear that up. What you saying, brother?
I got you. One, I'm not saying that the white man is the black man.
Right. Okay.
I'm not saying
that's
that.
Why I said
I'm
clear.
saying that black etymologically means pale. He's not a white man. First off, that's the first thing. We have to come out the context that he's the white man. He's not white. He's a Paleolith. So when you're speaking of black people, you're talking about the Paleolith. That's who they are. Now, when we don't have understanding of that, it's going to be, it seems offensive, or like you're saying something real wild. But you can do the math on this. The word black means pale. Bleach, black, same exact thing.
What year in American history did Europeans begin to refer to themselves as an actual color? As
in,
quote unquote.
in the 1800s, in 1870, they had a Naturalization Act. This is in the Law Dictionary. 1870 is when they had the Naturalization Act, to where that's when they first lawfully on paper started being called white people.
Yes.
After that Naturalization Act. But you got to understand, nationalization and naturalization are 2 different processes.
Yes.
So whenever you have to naturalize somebody, one, the first attribute is they have to be an alien. All right, they can't be the natives to the land and be naturalized. So essentially, these foreigners was, legally incorporating, stealing our status, not our identity, our status, which the word white means God, God means purity, White means purity, purity means God, God means ruler of the land. We the true landlords. You know what I'm saying?
right.
And their whole agenda was to get us out of that status. So what did they do? They said that, you know, they took the babies from the mothers, you know, told them you a nigga. Now, this is your name, you black. They don't have no connection to the culture at this point. So they come up, they think that's what they do. That's who they are. Then they crossbreed and give that to the next generation. And then they come up and thinking that that's who they are. Now, mind you, at these times, you know, we was getting lynched and hung for reading. So it wasn't like, I'm gonna go to this book and find out.
Yeah,
like
it
it wasn't
was cut off from that.
You know what I'm saying?
Does anybody have any information on the Whittemore party?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Any knowledge of the Whittemores?
most certainly. Those was the Europeans. Like, I don't know if you remember, like them old cartoons they'll show, or them old flicks where they'll show the magistrates with the wigs on.
Yeah.
If you even
White
watch
girl.
Sleepy Hollow, those were the Europeans who was practicing our science. That's
Okay.
why it was called Whittemores. But they'll put on the wigs and wear the ankhs, you know what I'm saying? And they say that this was their talisman, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But they was actually mocking or trying to be the white people, the free white persons, which are really us. And I'm not saying because the white,
Right, I know what you're
know
saying.
what I mean?
Right, you dealing with
Because
status right now.
yeah, because
That's what it is.
Make sure y'all hear that. We dealing with status right now.
Yeah, because I
That's it.
actually
You talking to some of your
to
friends
show-
that
Yeah.
was like you were
That's
back
right.
today, right? You trying to
That's
tell them, right?
But
I
we're
got you.
speaking to freshmen, and it's understood. This is a senior lesson.
Okay.
I saw an article where it had Selassie, Haile Selassie, the emperor of Ethiopia, referred to as a white man. Now we know that they weren't speaking of it in his color.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They weren't referring to it as his nationality. But when he arrived in the Americas, his status afforded him the status of white. Not white people, but the status of a white as, you know, being a sovereign.
Right. Even brothers and sisters that come from like Egypt today, they still get that on there.
Indeed.
White.
How did you begin to shape and mold your son right here? Talk about that.
Before he was born,
Mm-hmm.
and before I even was consciously, I didn't know nothing about more except for that it's in the DNA.
Do you
One
find
thing-
yourself now learning from him?
Absolutely.
That's right. The brother's deep.
Absolutely, because he's set on the path to go in that direction to learn this.
Right.
He's not starting from back here in building block 1 to get up to the 12th grade. He's already at the 12th grade in this knowledge, so he has no other choice but to go further than that, and that's what has to happen. But like when I was pregnant, I did the math and I said, wow, my son's going to turn 13 in the year 2000. And at that time, 2000, was a long way off. Of course, I didn't know what I was really having, but I did do that ultrasound and they showed the outline of the head. And I knew that was a male hairline. hairline. And so then after he was born too, I knew that he was going to turn 13. So to me, that meant something. I said, oh, he's a warrior. I said that. Because 2000 was so futuristic, and and he just found his way. I mean, you can only this is where family is. It's his choice. It was his choice. It's his choice. It wasn't my choice. But then again, at the same time, every mother out there, that's why the women have to get this, because your child in your womb can only come out knowing everything you know. So the stuff that he's even teaching me is the stuff that he already has in him.
Right.
You
so you was
understand?
already teaching him in the womb.
But that's what it's all about. The very first school room is the womb. That's why the sisters have to get this, because it's them that's going to change the generations to come. And every mother out there wants their son to be that warrior and that man. All women